Welcome back to He's Here and He's Perfect. Am I over-indexing 29 minutes of play? Absolutely not. This is the best defender of all time.
He wins that ball so much. Brilliant.
I'm lucky enough to get to the Emirates probably 4 or 5 times a year through a combination of ballots, friends who can't go, FK from latte firm sorting me out, and so on. And I was very thankful to be at the Lyon game on Sunday. I could probably go more, but I like my little cosy home setup. You obviously get the visceral live experience at the match, but I will maintain you do miss events and certain tactical details when you're at the ground with no replays, watching from an angle, and having to block out the noise of 2 drunk women behind me shouting, "Martinelli's on the telly, yes he..." Please stop. But at home, on the flip side, you're at the mercy of the TV director. You're looking where they want you to look. Man. And on Sunday, while on a stag do where I probably should have been 4 pints deep by half time, but instead was writing down Ben White stride length wow, I noticed some stuff that I don't think personally I would have seen if I was at home watching on TV. And I want to talk about them. Little things that I think contribute in a big way to our success. It's also worth saying the live experience does remind you that this is ultimately, in part, a tough, intense, physical battle. On Sunday, it was 28 degrees and most of the pitch was in direct sunlight. Yes, okay, they're athletes and they're in unbelievable condition, but they are running around smashing into each other in, relative to the UK, proper heat. That might be a bit of a, well, duh point to some of you, but I think it's worth saying because I, certainly, can forget that. Sometimes I feel that especially online conversations can become a little bit detached from the physical aspect of the game. Like it's almost never good enough analysis to just say their legs went as a reason why they lost the game. But sometimes it might be just that. The physical aspect of the game underpins all the tactics, all the performances, all the details, all the decisions of a game. I sometimes mock Roy Keane for making it all about fight and running and leaders, but a stop clock is right twice a day. But it is curious where his more visceral, experiential time in football, compared to others with a more detached digital experience, probably skews analysis one way or another. And I think there is a balance to be found. So, with that all said, there were a few specific elements that stood out to me when watching from the stands on Sunday. First up, anticipation. When Lyon were in possession, not very much in the first half especially, I was so struck by how well we anticipated actions off the ball. We are so engaged, active, and proactive. This situation. As the ball goes over to the left back here, I remember watching Ben White, off your screen, start sprinting to get in front of the left winger here. He starts his action just that split second before his opponent, so as you can see, he gets his stride going before his opponent and nips in to win the ball. Now, this only happens because Ben trusts that the other options, a ball into midfield, back to the goalie or over the top, are all covered and secured by our terrific man-to-man press and our dual monsters at the back. So yes, the press provides the platform for him to jump up, but the execution is down to Ben White's engagement and anticipation off the ball, remaining active, and it ends with an easy duel. He did that again and again on the day with terrific results. Another situation, this time in a less structured moment. Lyon regained possession and Tolisso hopes to pick out his teammate to start a counter. Havertz, as you can see, is already active off the ball and you can see his body's momentum here is anticipating that next move. Tolisso plays the pass, but Havertz is already in stride before it's even out of his feet. He knows where it's going and is already putting pressure on the pass. But as well, out of shot, Zinchenko has anticipated it too, and I remember from the game, just out of shot, he jumps inside early as the ball is played to calmly collect it. And it all ends with a decent shot from Declan Rice. That could have been a very different situation without the activity off the ball. Here, it's Saka switched on off the ball, who starts a run to press the next pass out wide to Tolisso before the ball has even reached the central centre-back. The early movement forces Tolisso wide and forces an error, and it's a throw into Arsenal. Here, Martinelli reads the body language of the defender playing the pass and starts his action a little earlier as it comes, again winning the ball back. Smart and engaged work all round off the ball. It's obviously hard to keep that up physically and mentally, but the net result of that happening again and again and again over the course of a game is that feeling we all get that we're caging teams in by being just that half a second ahead of our opponents in that defensive action. We focus on the press and the angle and the bodies committed and the man-for-man zone or whatever it might be, but that's all underpinned by the activity and the focus off the ball. And this isn't just something we did on Sunday. This is something we do over and over again under Mikel Arteta, but I really noticed it when watching from the stands. Ben White is particularly adept at this, which is maybe partly why we tend to angle the press to the left. I recall the scene from All or Nothing where Carlos Cuesta commented on just this, saying White was special in his level of activity and suggested there weren't many players in the world who can anticipate like he can. You can see it in the numbers, in the duels, but just watch the games and you'll see that level of activity off the ball that he's referring to. It is genuinely incredible and gives us such a competitive advantage. So there's one. But next, I want to talk about maximising restarts. Mikel has spoken a bit in the past about getting better at restarts, and I think there's a lot of small things that we're beginning to see give us those extra 1 or 2 percenters. I see restarts as goal kicks, throw-ins, kickoffs, corners and free kicks, although I accept a few of those are a bit subjective as a free kick could also be a direct shot, for example. First, goal kicks, or just when the ball goes back, to David Raya. Leon down our right-hand side, speculative ball over the top, Raya collects. Just look at the timer up here. Collecting, 1850, out of his hands, 1851. I literally wrote 33 minutes in my notes at the time when this next one happened because it was so noticeable. The TV doesn't show it, but the ball goes out of play, 32.59, and then the ball is with Saliba after the previous action at 33.07. And I'm telling you from watching, it was about 3 seconds between the ball going out of play and being back in action with the pass. Another one, ball goes out at 36.43. Raya is ready to go at 36.46. I can't find any footage, so you'll just have to trust me. It would be a weird lie. But Raya was shouting at the ball boys at some points in the second half to give him the ball quicker when it went behind. It's a pre-season game. We're 2-0 up. He's our undoubted number one, and it's nearly 30 degrees, and he's giving it Joe Hart. I think it's safe to say that Arteta, in general, likes those restarts from the back to be quick. We know how good we are once we get into our deep patterns and start progressing through the thirds, and I think he wants to get on with it. If we need to, as we did against Wolves at home last season, I do think we can waste time in deep build-up if we think it gives us an advantage, but I think generally quick restarts from the back are now a hallmark of this Arsenal side, because they can take another team by surprise, create transitional moments, and catch others napping, as it did here. I mean, this bloke's still playing with his socks, and Partey's away. That said though, as I see it, we do tend to take our time over the other types of restarts. I don't think it's a case of get the ball back in play as soon as possible with every restart. I think it's about deciding whether speed is useful on every restart, which is smart thinking. For example, Ben White takes time over his throw-ins to look for the best possible outcome, and I'd love to understand what we're doing on those a bit better. But there's clearly a strategy beyond get it back in there quick, son. What I really notice is the communication. On the corners, Rice gives Gabriel, Saliba and others time to discuss their movements in the box, especially early on in games, and it works. You can see them all covering their mouths, talking with one another at the back stick. Corner given at 7 minutes and 53 seconds, corner taken at 8 minutes and 33 seconds. A full 40 seconds out of play at 0-0 can't be a mistake, knowing Mikel Arteta. Nico Jova has done a fantastic job, but that's because they're complicated, intricate routines. So you need time on the pitch to talk to your teammates, to work out exactly what you're doing and confirm the plan. Later on, Saka, ball in arm, no rush to take the free kick as he wants to give his teammates time to discuss how they approach it. You can just about make out Martinelli and Havertz in the background here having some kind of discussion, and it nearly pays dividends. Martinelli finds himself free at the back post, and Havertz nearly heads it in a well-worked routine. Maximising restarts is something I'm really keen to hear more from Arteta about, and hopefully someone asks him about it. But I think even from observation, especially away from the cameras, we can see there's a lot of thinking that goes into them. Finally, pretty simple one, Mikel in-game. Rice said after the Liverpool game at home last year that Mikel lives on the pitch with the players, and I think that's such a good way of putting it. You can really feel it in the ground. He is with them in every single action, kicking every ball, shouting about the tiniest positional detail, praising every duel, clapping every good idea. He barely ever leaves his technical area. The energy he puts out on a match day is just insane, and the bench cams Arsenal put out are always a fascinating watch. And I know he's there theoretically, and we're kind of used to it now, but I don't think we always appreciate just how much it gives us. Just imagine your boss at work stood over you for the entire day, praising you, pushing you, bringing you food and water, giving you a break, then pushing you again. Imagine how productive you'd be. Well, I would be anyway. Imagine how, if you liked your boss, supported you'd feel. Sure, some would say this is incredibly overbearing, please leave me alone, I'm just doing a PowerPoint. But for football players who, let's not forget, are delivering a physical performance, I think it really helps. There was a little break in play about 20 minutes, and I looked over at the bench, and Mikel was sat down. And I turned to my friend and I was like, what's Mikel doing? He's sat down. And then, of course, as I said that, he stood up and started barking instructions at Ben White. He is an absolute animal. I recently rewatched that clip of him in All or Nothing shouting at Nuno Tavares at halftime of West Ham away in 21-22. The guy is crazed. The passion is just insane. Sometimes, I'll be honest, I do wonder, is it a bit much? Does he just need to chill out? If not for the sake of the autonomy of the players, then for the sake of his blood pressure. Is the constant instruction a bit distracting? Is it a bit OTT? A bit, oh, look at me, I'm doing something. But then I'm like, no, it's fine. What he's transmitting is better than fine. It's lighting up the stadium. And I just think, why does it annoy people? Like, seriously. Why are there professional pundits who take time to judge, discuss and criticise his, quote, antics on the touchline? Aren't we always saying the Premier League is losing its characters, Pep's made it boring, everyone's a robot? If that's the case, shouldn't we love this? I think Mikel can occasionally go a bit far, but he knows that. He said that. And he's not doing it for my or your sake. He's doing it for the players. If the players found it annoying, wouldn't they tell him? And look at the football we play. It's clearly working. One of my historical worries about Mikel, with no real evidence, just an instinct, is that maybe he has no one there in the coaching staff or in the players who can really challenge him. So maybe he's shouting at the players and they're all looking at him like, bro, chill. But no one can say anything because he's too powerful. I've advocated in the past for more experience on the coaching staff to combat that. But I was struck by a recent article on The Athletic where Andreas Kjorgsson, the ex-Arsenal set-piece coach, who's now joined United, so has no reason to lie, said Mikel chooses staff members precisely on the basis that they aren't yes men. They do challenge him a lot. Kjorgsson said there could be friction, intense discussions, but it was always about finding the best ideas. So if there's any lingering doubt about whether Mikel's intensity is useful for the players and staff, I think that can be put to bed. Because I really do feel it would have gone by now if it wasn't serving the whole. And in the stadium, he feels like the focal point of it all. We can't passion, anticipate or restart our way to a Premier League title. We will need to score goals, play well, stay fit and so on. But these little things, these tiny 1% here, 1% here, 1% here, all add up. And in a game of such fine margins, these so-called little things can take on incredible importance. With the Premier League returning this weekend, I can't wait to see how they help us through the season to come.
If you like The Different Knock, you can support us on Patreon monthly, or you can buy us a coffee.